Guys, I'm Adam, and today I'll be talking about the CUEGIS concept, globalization. Globalization is a process by which people, ideas, goods, and services become increasingly spread around the world, creating greater integration and understanding of countries, organizations, and cultures. So, in a business context, we usually worry about goods and services as well as organizations and cultures. So, there are actually different ways a firm can actually venture into the foreign market. The first way and the most common way is through franchising. So as you can see in this little graph diagram, you can see that McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, Domino's Pizza, and Subway all ventured into the global market in some extent, to some extent. So, especially when we talk about McDonald's, McDonald's has a brilliant localization strategy that they use to adapt on the foreign menus in the foreign countries to include some sort of local cuisines. So, for instance, in Japan, they actually integrated a sort of a chicken veggie burger to suit the Japanese taste. And for KFC, they actually included a menu that will serve different kind of rice bowl to the Chinese audience. So they will feel that they have their tastes met. So it's kind of brilliant how those companies devise different sort of menus to cater to different tastes in different countries. But there is also a potential problem that they may encounter is loss of brand identity because McDonald's, when we think of it, it's all about chicken nuggets, or about French fries, it's all about those fast food items, the Big Mac that we care about. But if it ventured too much into the foreign market and include all different kinds of new cuisines in its menu, then its original brand identity might be lost in this process. So we can see that it's pretty important for the firm to strike a balance between incorporating new items while also preserving the original items that appeared on the original menu. So McDonald's actually did a fairly good job in terms of that because they kept the original menu in across the globe, and those items are highly consumed by the people around the globe as well. So they did a fairly good job on that. And the second type of way for a business to venture into a new international market is through a joint venture. So joint venture, here I wanted to make a distinction between joint venture and strategic alliance. So the major difference here is joint venture. Through joint venture, companies, usually two companies, will create a separate entity in which they have their purpose met. While in a strategic alliance, no new entity is created and only a sort of an agreement is formed by the two parties. So here, my example is a Starbucks and a Tata Group in India because there are a lot of restrictions and local constraints that Starbucks is going to face if it directly venture into the Indian market. So what they have decided is that they wanted to have a joint venture with a Tata Group so that they could probably actually have a better time in India, sell coffee instead of facing some sort of obstacles. So, and the joint venture was formed, and the joint venture, the new business entity is called Tata Starbucks Private Limited. So that's the name for the new entity created for Starbucks to venture into the India market. So in fact, Tata Group and Starbucks both have 50% of share or stake in this new entity created. But there are also some sort of problems, and in your evaluation paragraph, you can also talk about that to show off your IB critical thinking. It might be hard to an exit. Oh yeah, so sorry, it's a typo. I mean exit. It's hard to exit partnerships because once a contract or agreement is formed, it's usually really hard for you to get out of it because and there may be some legal issues happening. We don't know because it's the company venturing into a new market. We don't really have a lot of understanding of the new market, so the PESTEL analysis will come in place here as well. And also, it's really some kind of difficult for two company to have equal involvement. One company may actually did a lot more than the other company, and there might be some issues in terms of how they're gonna split the profit and stuff like that. So it's very confusing sometimes. So you can definitely include that in your evaluation paragraph to boost your argument. And the final type I'm going to talk about today is through offshoring. Offshoring is usually happens with production. You offshore some of your production facilities to a foreign place. And here, my example is actually the Chinese electronics company Xiaomi actually offshore parts of its production to India. So, an advantage of that is that it's closer to the market and it can also facilitate globalization and integration within the India community. And also, let me give you a little bit of background of that. Previously, Xiaomi has had a lot of difficulty entering the Indian market, so it actually reached an agreement with India government to actually shift part of its production facility from mainland China to India to help to create some jobs for the people living in India. So in that way, the India government agreed that Xiaomi can enter the Indian market. So, but there is actually some sort of problem with that. Although it helped Xiaomi to establish itself as an India company, or establish as I asked my India friend, he actually told me that he thought Xiaomi is an India company. So it's really highly integrated everything into the India market. So that might be a really good advantage for Xiaomi to have. But there are also problems with that. It might be higher cost and cannot utilize economies of scale. So if everything is produced in China, there might be a high degree of economies of scale. The unit cost will be significantly dropped if everything is produced in mega factories in China. But if some of this production is shifted to India, then they might not be able to utilize economies of scale to a higher extent that they wish they could. So there are definitely problems associated with that. So be sure to evaluate those points that you're making in your QGIS essay, and it will sound brilliant. Thank you, everyone. If you enjoy this, please check out my channel, and if you like it, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you next time.